The forgotten rebellion that shook the British Empire, the War of the Vellore Sepoys. They buried it beneath layers of empire. A rebellion so fierce, so sudden, it nearly upended the British rule in India, and yet you've probably never heard of it. It happened 50 years before the more famous 1857 Mutiny. In the shadowed corridors of a South Indian fort, whispers of outrage turned into gunfire, and before the sun rose, hundreds lay dead. This is the story of the Vellore Sepoy Rebellion, a revolt born not of weapons, but of wounded dignity, sacred belief, and a refusal to kneel. India, 1806. The British East India Company was tightening its grip, not only on trade and territory, but on minds, souls, and identities. The soldiers of the Madras Army, Indian Sepoys, had served loyally under British command. Many were Hindu or Muslim, devout men who fought, bled, and died for a foreign crown they barely understood. But loyalty, as history teaches, has a breaking point. And it began, believe it or not, with a hat. The British, in their attempt to modernize the Sepoys, introduced a new uniform. Tight-fitting trousers, leather cross belts, and a round hat meant to replace the traditional turbans. But for these men, these were not just garments. The turban was sacred, a symbol of honor, identity, and divine duty. What the British saw as discipline, the Sepoys saw as humiliation. Worse, rumors spread like wildfire that the new attire had been coated with cow fat and pig lard, a death sentence for both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. Their bodies were being forced into betrayal of their faiths. The Sepoys' silence turned into murmurs, and murmurs became a vow. In the dead of night, on July 10, 1806, the Vellore Fort, home to British officers, their families, and over 1,500 Indian troops, became a powder keg. The rebellion exploded at 2 a.m. Sepoys stormed the barracks. British officers, jolted from sleep, barely had time to react. Within hours, 14 officers were dead. The Union Jack was torn down, and in its place, a symbol of defiance, the flag of Tipu Sultan was hoisted. Tipu Sultan, the fierce king of Mysore, who had fought valiantly against the British, and whose sons were now imprisoned within those very walls. Was it just rebellion, or a secret plan long in the making? For a moment, a single breath in history, the British lost control. But empire moves fast. Within hours, the British at Arcot, just 16 miles away, responded. Cavalry thundered through the gates of Vellore. Guns blazed. The air turned black with smoke and red with blood. By midday, it was over. Over 350 Sepoys lay dead. The British silenced Vellore with such ruthlessness that even their own officers began to question the cost of control. But what they couldn't silence was the wound it left behind. Why is the Vellore Rebellion almost never mentioned? Why does a revolt of such magnitude, predating 1857 by 50 years, remain in the footnotes? Because Vellore wasn't just a rebellion, it was a mirror to British arrogance, to cultural blindness, to the devastating cost of ignoring belief and dignity. It was a cry from the soul of India, not for power but for respect. And it echoed. Though crushed, the rebellion sent tremors through the empire. Policies changed. Uniform rules were revised. Religious customs were given lip service. And somewhere deep in the psyche of the East India Company, fear set in. Fear that the empire wasn't as secure as it thought. Today, the Vellore Fort stands quiet. Tourists walk its stone paths, unaware of the blood once spilled there. But if you listen closely, if you stand where the rebels once stood, you might still hear it. The whispered prayers before the charge, the cries of faith betrayed, the roar of men who would not bow. They weren't just soldiers. They were fathers, sons, believers, and they chose death over dishonor. History remembers those who win, but justice remembers those who dared to resist, even when they were doomed. The Vellore Sepoy Rebellion didn't win a war, but it started a fire, one that would blaze again and again until the empire finally fell. Let this not be forgotten. Not again.